In this video, I take on a 15-minute photo challenge in a wood full of bluebells.
Adorama TV presents Take and Make Great Photography with Gavin Hoey.
Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that has everything for us photographers. And as you can see today, I'm in a beautiful bluebell wood because I'm going to do a 15-minute photo challenge. Now this is just a fantastic place for photography, so much going on here. But I've got to try and take a few different pictures, a few close-ups, a few wide shots, and I've kind of got myself started and I'm ready to go because 15 minutes isn't very long to do this. So I've got my camera and I've got my 24 to 105mm lens. That's going to be the lens throughout this 15-minute photo challenge, and I'm likely to be using a tripod. So I'm set up, ready to go. I reckon there's a couple of shots here that I can take without having to move my feet, which is really good for a tripod user because, well, I love tripods, but they do slow you down and time is of the essence. So let's see what we can do here. I think my first shot is just going to be a general wide angle scene just to establish what I've got here. And I'm shooting pretty much into the light, which is normally something you try and avoid, but I'm doing it on purpose because I want to get that flary effect. So let's just come in and frame this up. Now I reckon if I frame this up with lots of the trees, I should get quite an interesting picture. Now I'm using live view to take the shot, and it's on 2-second self timer because I didn't bring the remote release. So that's how I get around my lack of a remote release. Just pop it on 2-second self timer, and the picture looks okay. There's better pictures in here. It works okay as a landscape shot, but I reckon I'm just going to turn the camera around because this could work well as a portrait format as well. So let's spin this around, and this is where the beauty of live view really comes in. I'm going to do what you shouldn't do. I'm going to include the sun in the shot. And we're always told never do that, always keep the sun out your shot. But you know what? That can really work well. Beautiful. So I get that lovely starburst effect. The starburst effect is happening because I'm at f/22, a really small aperture, and it gives this natural starburst. So that's kind of wide angle stuff, but I've got a 24 to 105mm lens, so let's try zooming in and see if I can get some shots here. Again, let's just see what I can get without moving even. So I'll flip my camera back the other way round, and let's just have a look. There's a couple of little bluebells just sticking up above the rest, and part of the reason that I'm down so low is I can get down to the same height as the bluebells. That's what I want to do, to try and get an eyeline view across this field of blue. I'm going to switch to manual focus for this because focus becomes a bit more critical. Now I've got mixed lighting here. We've got towards the end of the day lighting, so we've got bright bits in the scene and dark bits. I really want to photograph the bluebells that are in the shade. That gives me the lowest contrast and, generally speaking, better results. But my camera is exposing for the highlights, so I will just change my exposure compensation. Let's just increase that by a couple of stops. Take the same shot, and this time I'm biasing my exposure for the shadowy parts of the picture, and that should give me a completely different look. So that's focusing probably, according to this, 3.5 meters in front of me, but my lens will focus a little bit closer. So let me just see if I can find a bluebell in focus a bit closer to the front of the lens. There you go. And again, I'll use manual focus to try and nail this. Now it's blowing around a little bit in the breeze, which isn't helping, but you know, that's part of the challenge. I'll just wait for the wind to die down a little bit and I'll take the shot. And that's just beautiful. So we have a lovely out of focus background because I'm still shooting wide open, f4. It's worth bracketing your apertures because although f4 looks perfect on the back of the screen, it's not until you get back home that you wish you had a bit more depth of field. So whilst I'm here, let's also try f5.6. And just for the fun of it, let's try f8. And let's go one more, let's go f11. So what I end up with is a range of different pictures at a range of different apertures, meaning I can choose the best one, not here, but I can choose it back in my studio. Here she goes. Go on then, go and get it. Well, I think I've probably got all the shots I can get here. Let's move around and see what else we can find. Go and get it, Ella. Go on. Well, honestly, I've walked almost nowhere, just a few meters around, and we've got this lovely tree. I'm still shooting with the light more or less in my face, and I think there's a good shot here. So let's get the tripod down. Again, I'm going to work low. I want to keep down. I mean, I'll show you why. I mean, I shouldn't use it this way around, but if I just take a shot like this, what you end up with is the standard shot that you take at eye height. It gets much more interesting when you get away from standard eye height. So I'm just going to drop myself down just like that. No more than that. Frame this up again. Hello, Ella. By the way, this is Ella. If you haven't seen Ella, she comes with the woods. There you go. Let's take the same shot. Here we go. Now I reckon that this shot is going to be much better, but there's an even better shot in here. I just have to work for it a little bit. So the first thing I can do is just zoom in a bit closer, just to frame this up a bit tighter. Here we go. Get this in focus. Now I'm still going to be using that nice f4 wide open aperture with this lens for a lovely shallow depth of field. So that works pretty well, but can I get it even better? Well, let's just try getting lower still. So I can adjust the legs of this tripod. I can get right down, so I'm literally deep inside of the bluebells. Again, I'm going to need to use live view for this. Hello, Ella. There we go. I'll get the dog out the shot. And I'm just going to shoot through the bluebells. So I'm just going to try and pick one out, get one in focus. There we are. And it's got this beautiful blue mist all around it. Okay, so I've got, well, no time left. Maybe just for one quick shot at the end. And one of my favorite things to shoot, especially on a 15-minute photo challenge, is a panorama. So let's ditch the tripod for now. And let's do this handheld because time is of the essence. So I'm just going to do a panorama here of the woods. And I'm going to be using the wide angle end of my lens. If you want to see how to really do a panorama, go check out one of my previous videos on the Adorama Learning Center, where I go through this step by step. But basically what I'm going to do is take a meter reading. I'm going to be using f8. So my camera is telling me a shutter speed of a 50th of a second. So that's what I'm going to dial in, manual mode, f8, 50th of a second. So I'm going to take all my pictures of my panoramic sequence at that setting. Now, here we go. I'm also going to try and make sure I don't get the sun directly in my shot. So if I just take a step to the side, yep, there we are, that'll do. So I've just hidden the sun behind a tree. I'm going to take a picture of my hand. So I know when I look back at these pictures, this is a panoramic sequence, just a visual reminder. And away we go. Taking the shots about 180-degree field of view, and making sure that they all overlap. That's the secret of a good panorama, overlapping the pictures. Round and round. There you go. So a sequence of images that when I stitch them together, just make a beautiful panorama. And there you go, 15 minutes comes and goes really, really quickly. I could spend hours here and still never finish taking enough photographs, but sadly that's not possible. So let's get my favorite picture back into Photoshop, and we're going to do some editing on that right now. So the picture I'm going to edit is the last one, and there's two reasons for that. Partly it's because I can now make a panoramic image directly inside of Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, but mostly it's because that's the first time I think that I've been photobombed by a dog. And for that reason alone, it's worth editing. Let's have a look. So here I am inside of Lightroom CC or Lightroom 6. It's the same thing as far as our photo merge panorama is concerned. And I've got the images, I've sorted them out already, but I've done absolutely no processing to them. They're directly off the camera raw files. But you can see these overlap. So here is a sort of big tree, and in the next shot, here's the same tree again. And that's the secret to making a good panorama. So how do I get these together inside of Lightroom into one single image? Well, first of all, I need to select them all. So I'll press Control A or Command A on a Mac. Then I'll right click on the image. It doesn't matter which one. On the film strip, I can choose Photo Merge and then Panorama. So this is the new feature in the latest version of Lightroom and also found in Adobe Camera Raw inside of Photoshop CC 2014. Now this will take a little bit of time just to process through, and I warn you now, if you're a sort of person who doesn't have patience, this may not work for you, but thanks to the magic of video, mine's already done. And what it creates isn't a full panorama, it's just a low resolution preview so you can get an idea whether this is worth proceeding or not. Now, there's a few things you can change, but not many. First of all, there's an auto button at the top which will automatically select the projection. And the projection are these three buttons below, so you might as well click on them just to learn what they do. Spherical panoramas are 360 degrees, so I didn't take one of those in this case. I did about 180 degrees, and that would make it a cylindrical panorama. And you can see they're very slightly different. This one's just a little bit more deep, and that's the one I'm going to choose. Now, my feet stayed still taking this panorama and I rotated, but if I was walking along taking a panorama, I'd have made a perspective panorama. Now, it won't let me choose that in the preview because, well, it realizes that I didn't make one, and that's rather clever. So let's use the cylindrical. I could use auto crop. You see this white area around the outside. I could use auto crop and get rid of that, but I'm going to do that inside of Photoshop, so I'll leave auto crop off and just click on the merge button. Now this will start to create the panorama for real, and you can see it just going along on the progress bar here. And this is where it can really start to slow down because the final panorama is going to be 8 high resolution RAW files merged together, and that means it's going to be about 15,000 pixels on the longest edge. So it's a really, really wide panorama, and that's going to take some serious processing even on my computer. That's pretty powerful. But again, thanks to the power of video, guess what? Mine's done. So this is the unedited panorama, and it is effectively a giant RAW file. And that means I can do all the things I would have done to my original RAW files, but rather than having to do them individually on all 8, I can just come and do it on the final one. And that kind of makes sense to me to try and just edit the final RAW file rather than the individual RAW files. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just doing a little bit of editing here. Maybe we'll just pull down the clarity and pop up the vibrance, and we'll just get the graduated filter and just sort of lighten up the foreground, I think, a little bit. That sky does look a little bit pink, but don't be fooled. That's not actually reality. If I zoom in over that, you'll see that's pretty good. I need to do chromatic aberration. It's just such a high resolution file that it is showing a few odd things on this lower resolution screen. So I'm happy with that. What about this white area? Well, this is perhaps where Lightroom falls down slightly because I can't clone in to this white area. It just won't work if I get the spot healing brush and I try and sort of spot heal over these areas. It isn't going to work. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is right click on this panorama and edit in Photoshop CC 2014. So I'll move from Lightroom into Photoshop and I can continue my editing there, and now you can see I've got this checkerboard pattern. So let's just get the crop tool and just come down here and we'll crop in here a little bit like that. Okay, and then perhaps a little bit off the bottom, something like that. What about the rest of this area here? Well, I'm going to use the clone stamp tool for this because the clone stamp tool will work really well for pretty random patterns like this, and I can just come and clone in. That's not so good. Let's make my brush a little bit softer. There we go. And we'll just come along here. Now, obviously, the more time you spend doing this, the better the end result will be. I'm not exactly, I don't have that much time because this is a video and you really don't want to sit here and watch me clone for the next 10 minutes or so. So I'm going through this much, much faster than I would normally do. And there you go. There is my panorama completed. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more from myself and the other amazing presenters here on Adorama TV, you know what you've got to do? You've got to click on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost, be sure to visit our easy-to-use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.